Aleister Crowley, the occultist who tried to become a god. They called him the wickedest man in the world. He was a man who performed shocking rituals of forbidden magic, proudly called himself the Beast 666, and declared he was the prophet of a whole new age. He didn't just want to practice the occult, he wanted to use it to tear down society and make himself a god. This is the story of how one man's rebellion against his devout Christian family led to a new religion and a quest for ultimate power that's left a legacy of scandal and influence for over a century. In history, you'll be hard-pressed to find someone as polarizing as Aleister Crowley. So, what was he? A genius who unlocked the secrets of the universe, or just a narcissist who preyed on the vulnerable? Born into a rich and pious family, Edward Alexander Crowley would spend his entire life fighting against the rules of his time. He was a world-class mountaineer, a published poet, a spy, and a drug addict. But more than anything, he was a magus, a magician who said he received a divine message from a supernatural entity. That message would become the bedrock of his religion, Thelema. His journey took him from the famous halls of Cambridge University to the scorched deserts of Egypt and the lonely shores of Sicily, all for one single audacious goal: to become a god. Section 1. The Making of a Rebel. The story of the Great Beast doesn't start in some shadowy crypt, but in a respectable upper-class home in Victorian England. Born in 1875, Aleister Crowley's parents were devout members of the Plymouth Brethren, a very conservative and exclusive Christian group. With a traveling evangelist for a father, young Aleister was raised on a steady diet of daily Bible study and prayer. But all this religious intensity had the exact opposite effect. Instead of creating faith, it bred in him a deep, lasting hatred for Christianity. He saw it as a religion of weakness and hypocrisy, a system built to suppress our true nature. His rebellion wasn't a quiet one. After his father died, his relationship with his mother fell apart. In fact, she was the one who first gave him the nickname he'd later wear with pride, the Beast, from the Book of Revelation. He inherited a ton of money, which meant he never had to work and could chase his passions. He got into Trinity College, Cambridge, where he shined at chess, poetry, and his first real love, mountaineering. He climbed some of the world's most dangerous mountains, which really mirrored his spiritual goals, a relentless, dangerous climb towards something transcendent. But school and sports weren't enough. A darker, more mysterious world was calling to him, a world of ancient symbols and forbidden knowledge. Section 2. The Path to Magic. Crowley officially stepped into the world of the occult in 1898 when he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This wasn't some fringe group. It was a massively influential secret society with poets, scholars, and artists as members. Here, Crowley finally found the structure and the language for his spiritual rebellion. He dove headfirst into ceremonial magic, Kabbalah, and divination, and shot up the ranks. He was a brilliant but difficult student, and his ego and his refusal to bow to authority quickly got him into trouble with the Order's leaders. His time with the Golden Dawn was crucial, but it was really just a stepping stone. Crowley was convinced he was meant for more. He traveled the world, from Mexico to India and Ceylon, soaking up mystical traditions and experimenting with yoga and meditation. He was looking for a system of magic that wasn't just about dusty old rituals, but about real power and radical self-change. He was hunting for a key that would unlock the full potential of human will, and in 1904, in the middle of bustling Cairo, he believed he'd finally found it. Section 3. The Birth of a New Religion. The real turning point in Crowley's life happened on a trip to Egypt with his new wife, Rose Kelly. Crowley was trying to perform a ritual just to entertain her when Rose, who had zero interest in the occult, started falling into strange trances. She kept telling him, "They are waiting for you," insisting that a message was coming from the Egyptian god Horus. Crowley was skeptical at first, so he put her to the test. He took her to a nearby museum and demanded she identify Horus from a display of different gods. Without even hesitating, she pointed to a funeral stone from the 26th dynasty, an artifact that was later cataloged as Item number 666. That was enough for him. Crowley prepared for contact. For 3 days in a row, right at noon, he went into his room and wrote down the words he claimed were being dictated to him by a voice without a body. The voice belonged to a being called Aiwas, who Crowley later said was his own holy guardian angel, basically a higher version of himself. The result of this strange dictation was a short, cryptic, and explosive book, Liber el Vel Legis, better known as the Book of the Law. This book became the holy text of Crowley's new philosophy, Thelema. Its core belief is captured in 2 famous lines: "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, and love is the law, love under will." Now, this wasn't a free pass to do whatever you feel like. For followers of Thelema, do what thou wilt means finding and doing your true will, the unique divine purpose that is your whole reason for being here. Following that path is the great work, a spiritual journey to unite yourself with the universe. With the Book of the Law in hand, Crowley was no longer just a magician. He was the prophet of a new spiritual age, an era he called the Aeon of Horus. Section 4. The Beast 666 in practice. Armed with his new revelation, Crowley started building a system to teach Thelema to the world. He founded his own magical orders, the AA, and also became the leader of the British branch of the Ordo Templi Orientis, or OTO, reshaping it around his new principles. His rituals were a wild and powerful mix of Western magic and Eastern mysticism, all supercharged with his own controversial ideas. A huge part of his practice was using altered states of consciousness. He believed that to break free from the chains of normal perception, the mind had to be pushed to its absolute limit. So he used drugs, heroin, cocaine, mescaline, not just to get high, but as sacred tools to explore his inner world. Even more scandalous was his development of magic, spelled with a K to separate it from stage tricks. A key part of his system was sex magic, using sexual energy and orgasm as a powerful fuel for rituals. At a time when being gay was illegal in Britain, Crowley was openly bisexual, and he documented his encounters with both men and women in his diaries as part of his magical work. This blatant disregard for social and sexual rules, on top of his radical spiritual teachings, started to build the notorious reputation that would follow him for the rest of his life. His relationships were often messy and exploitative, and he left a trail of broken hearts and ruined lives behind him. For Crowley, every part of life was a ritual, and every experience, no matter how extreme, was just fuel for his great work. Section 5. The Wickedest Man in the World. In 1920, Crowley tried to create his own little perfect Thelemic society. He started the Abbey of Thelema in a rented house in Cefalù, Sicily. It was a commune dedicated to living by the law of do what thou wilt. The walls were covered in explicit occult-themed paintings, and the days were filled with intense rituals and heavy drug use. But this paradise quickly turned into a nightmare. The place was filthy, and the community was torn apart by fighting. The breaking point came in 1923, when a young English follower named Raoul Loveday died. He most likely died from drinking contaminated water, but his wife blamed Crowley's brutal magical training. The British tabloids, always looking for a good villain, jumped on the story. They ran scandalous articles filled with lurid tales of black magic, blood sacrifices, and wild parties. This is when the press branded him with the title he could never shake, the wickedest man in the world. The scandal got so bad that he was kicked out of Italy by Mussolini's government. But Crowley loved the infamy. He leaned into the caricature of the diabolical monster, seeing it as proof that he had the power to shake up the establishment. He was constantly in court, fighting legal battles, and being accused of cruelty by former followers. He spent the rest of his life moving from place to place, his fortune slowly disappearing. He always denied being a Satanist, pointing out that he didn't even believe in the Christian devil. In his own mind, he wasn't a servant of evil, but a prophet bringing a new kind of freedom to humanity. If you're into the hidden stories of people who broke all the rules, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. Drop a comment below and let us know. Do you think Crowley was a visionary prophet or a dangerous con artist? Section 6. Legacy of a Magician. Aleister Crowley died in a boarding house in Hastings, England, in 1947. He was a lonely figure, mostly seen as a bizarre relic from another time. But his death wasn't the end of his story. In a way, it was the start of his comeback. While the mainstream hated him during his life, his work found a very receptive audience in the counterculture movements of the 1960s and beyond. His teachings have had a huge and undeniable influence on modern Western magic. The magical orders he led, especially the OTO, are still active today, with members all over the world practicing thelema. His massive collection of writings on magic, yoga, and philosophy are still being studied, debated, and used by a whole new generation of occultists. His face even famously appeared on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album, and his ideas have rippled through the work of countless artists, writers, and musicians, from Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin to the writer Alan Moore. Conclusion. So who really was Aleister Crowley? Was he the Beast 666, a force of pure corruption? Or the prophet of a new age, a liberator of the human spirit? The truth, just like the man himself, is incredibly complex. He was a product of his time, a rebel kicking back against the suffocating piety of the Victorian era. His quest for godhood was paved with both genuine brilliance and shocking cruelty, with deep spiritual insights and just awful personal behavior. He set out to become a god, but died a mortal man. And yet, in a strange way, he did find a kind of immortality. His ideas, his rituals, and his religion have all outlived him, and they continue to challenge, inspire, and provoke us. Aleister Crowley's life is a powerful and cautionary tale about the search for absolute freedom and the dizzying heights and terrifying depths of the human will. He stared right into the abyss, and by doing so, he forced the rest of the world to stare back.